Hello! Hi, my name is Laura and I'm going to be playing the part, well, I did play the part of Lily Evans in the upcoming fan film, The Gathering Storm. Our principal filming is over, but we know you fans have a lot of questions, so we're all really eager to answer the questions we have, and right now, I have a couple of questions I promised I would answer, so let's get to it. And I promise, my accent was much better than this in the film. I haven't practiced in a long time, and oh gosh, please don't judge me. Okay, so the first question I'm going to answer is, what are some of the funny stories from on set? So, it's from Anonymous, it's an anon. So there's a couple of stories I already told already on Tumblr, like, you know, the time me, Sarah and Simon all waited on a sidewalk for 2 hours for our lovely lady Danielle to come take us to his set. There was a time that Ben, who plays Remus, he did an Aaron impression that got interrupted by Aaron and something. That was pretty funny. But I think, I don't know, one of the funnier things, I don't know, is it on set? No, this wasn't on set, this is before the set even started, but a couple of days before we started filming, Sarah had to come to town and she was going to stay at Aaron's for a little bit. And I was already at Aaron's, just waiting for film starting, so I decided, you know, it is 1 PM in the afternoon, the day has yet to start, so I'm just on the couch, on my phone, being a bit lousy, and I probably looked a bit like a sloth laying on the couch. And in comes Sarah, and we have never met before, and I look like a wreck, and she came in off a train, I think she rode a bus or a train all the way to Boston, and she looked not her best, and we just looked at each other and we were like, this is probably for the best. Yeah, it was pretty funny at the time. I'll think of another funny story later, I promise. Okay, so the next question I have, any on-set romance? This is also from an anonymous asker. So, okay, now I probably shouldn't be telling you guys this, it's a bit juicy, but me and, well, me and, you know, Sarah, we really are best friends. We're just really good friends. And we've often identified as platonic soulmates, and just, I have this really deep love for Sarah that I don't know if you can get it. It's just, it is me and this, actually, this is a lie, the whole entire cast was just one big orgy all the time. Like, all the time. Just all together, just very many sexuals to be had. Now I have questions about Lily as a character, which I'm really excited to answer. So, these are pretty fun. And I'm going to kind of answer them all together. Kind of, two of them are very similar. So, I am just, but one of them is a bit different, so I'm going to answer it first. And it's this one's also from Anonymous, because, you know, who knew that would happen. And it says, how do you feel about Lily being so connected to James Potter? Like, it seems everything regarding her is always about him. How did you manage to separate Lily from James and make her a character who stands out on her own? Wow. The people who wrote our script were very fervent? No, that's not the word. They're very on point. I don't know. I am an actor, not a thesaurus. So they were very on point about making sure each character kind of had their own definition. Because, you know, part of this movie came from, you know, it sprouted from all the Marauders and all, like, the really kind of fogginess around the Marauders, who they were as people, and we kind of, a large part of what most of us want to do is define these characters because they're super important. And these aren't just, you know, just like figureheads from the past, but they're actual people who had to deal with war when they were 16. When this movie happens, these kids are 16, and there's a war starting. So, for this movie, Lily and James, not really a thing. Lily is her own person in this movie. She has her own friends, she has her own problems to deal with, and James, not her biggest priority. The important part of this movie was defining them each separately as characters, and then them coming together. So, as I stare off camera trying to think, it wasn't particularly hard for me to define her as a character, because Lily wasn't concerned about James for most of the movie. That wasn't her main concern. Her main concern throughout this film is her friends, because her friends mean a lot to her. But Lily's defining characteristics, one of them is her compassion for other people, especially for people she cares about, which, that's repetitive, but people she cares about, she's very compassionate for. God, that's really, yeah. That's oversaying it. But the people she cares about, she's really passionate about, and she really, really cares for them. And so she doesn't want to harm them, she never wants harm to come to them, she's always worried for them, and like, that's a part of her main concern, is that she has much more important things to worry about than James Potter in this movie. So, That's how they're defined. If that's a terrible answer, let me know, because I felt like I didn't really answer that question while answering it. Okay, so this next question, also from an anonymous, is what was the best day on set and what was the hardest? Okay, so straight up, I think I know my favorite day on set, or best day. It was the second day whenever we filmed at Hammond Castle. And Hammond Castle is where we did like all the outdoor scenes for Hogwarts. So it was super, super gorgeous. You'll probably see lots of pictures of it. We all took lots of pictures at Hammond Castle. And it was just gorgeous. And the day was beautiful. Like the sky was blue, there were white clouds, it was on the sea, like literally it was right on the coast. If you looked out, it would be the Pacific Ocean. Yes, no, God, no, it's the it was the ocean. It was overlooking the ocean. It was gorgeous. It was ridiculous how pretty that place was, and the day was beautiful, and we spent like the whole entire day there, and it was just awesome. And it's beautiful, and we saw a couple of my favorite things there, and that was also the first time the 4 Marauders were all on camera together, and they were coming around a corner, so you know it's like, and all of a sudden it was just like the 4 Marauders, they were bloody there. It was awesome. It was literally, and Caroline, who played Marceline, was sitting right next to me. We just kind of looked at each other and we're just like, this is the best moment of our lives. Like, oh, holy crap, this is actually happening. Oh gosh, we're making a film about Harry Potter. Oh my goodness. And that just ended up being one of the funnest days on set, just like hands down. Even though I did have to sit on a ledge for like an hour waiting for a lighting to be right, but I'm over it, I'm past it. Now though, on the other hand, what was the hardest days on set? Yeah. One of the hardest days on set was probably the days we had to do the night shoots. There was a couple days where we had to do some night shoots outside. We had to do a night shoot outside, and I'm from the South. I'm not used to summer, or not. It was the end of May, which counts for me. Start of summer. I'm from the South. That's when summer starts, and I was not prepared for it to get like cold. I knew it was going to be like chilly. It's at nighttime in the north, you know, it's going to get chilly. It was cold, like really cold, and it rained before we shot both on the day, and it was just gross, and things that went wrong did go wrong, like terribly, and it didn't, we got everything we needed and it ended up okay, but it was just, okay, so my camera died, so I had to switch out camera batteries. But now, on to the next question. Okay, Anonymous asked, hi. So I have a question. I was wondering about Lily's relationship with Sirius. Is there any hint in TGS of their epic broship they'll eventually develop? Do they interact at all? Is Mary McDonald in the film? I'll answer more of that question later. It's parts of the question. And lastly, just to feed my ego, you must be thrilled to be portraying such an iconic and brilliant character, which I am. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the second question first. Is Mary McDonald in the film? Yes, she's in there for a little bit. This movie is not concerned about the relationship between Mary and Lily. If you're really looking forward to that, I'm really sorry, but this movie actually delves more into the relationship between Marlene, Lily, and also Alice. So they're the big trio of females that aren't Slytherins in this movie, and the movie delves into their friendship a bit and tries to show out how good friends they were in school at the point in time. But Mary is in there for a little bit. She's in there for a little bit. Now, the second question, do we get to portray the epic romance that will become between Sirius and Lily? Not really. This is the beginning, or this is their 6th year. So this is actually, if you want to think about it, this is the start of the friendship between the Marauders and Lily. She knows Remus already, and through Remus she gets to know the rest of the Marauders. You know, Sirius, Peter, James, that guy's a bit of a tosser. Anyway, the Marauders and Lily don't have a whole lot of interaction in the movie. They get to by the end of the, movie, film, it's a short film. By the end of it, they come together and they get to know each other a lot better. But at the beginning, they're not super close. So if you're really looking for between the bromance between Sirius and Lily, that doesn't happen at the beginning of the movie. It's something that more we delve into later. But if you're looking forward to Remus-Lily friendship, it definitely happens. God, that's lame. Oh, I'm so lame. I'm so sorry. Okay, so last but definitely not least, we have a question from Infinitely Danny that was to the Marauders fan film, but does with Lily, and this also connects to the rest of the question I got answered earlier, which is about Lily's personality. And the other question asked me about hand cannons I have about Lily, so I will also answer this right now. So this is from Infinitely Danny, who asked the Marauders fan film Tumblr. There's been a massive post about Lily's personality. Oh god, that sounds so pretentious if I say it like that. There's been a oh god, no, here we go. There's been a massive post about Lily's personality lately, and I'm not sure if you've seen it. Shh, it's okay. I have. I love it. Anyway, the main concern with the difference between her actual personality and how it's depicted in fanfic. So, would you say you're basically basing her personality more off of her description in the books, or bigger fanfics like Commentarius or TLHA, or a mix? Sorry to be prude, I just think people really tend to misinterpret Lily's personality a lot. Okay, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I have not read any of the really big Marauders fanfics. I definitely base Lily's personality more off the book described Lily, which, you know, it's not really there, but it's definitely there. Like, whenever Remus in the 3rd book talks about Lily and how much breeze, and whenever Slughorn, you know, talks about Lily whenever she's in the Slug Club and stuff. So, I do not have those quotes memorized. I remember when I read that big post about Lily's personality, I really agreed with it, and I really hoped that I got to portray her the way that I felt that she was. So I brushed my hair out of my eyes. Lily, for me, okay, this is going to be really terrible and super rambly, but we're going to get to it. Lily, for me, one of her biggest personality traits, no matter which way you put it, is compassion. That's just who she is. She's a super compassionate, very loving human being, and that's just who she is. She's a very, I wouldn't call it a motherly trait, but she definitely has that kind of, oh gosh. I wouldn't call it a motherly trait, but she definitely really cares for her friends. That's a big part of her, is that she doesn't want any harm to ever come to her friends, any hurt, because they're her friends. They're people she really cares for, and if anything ever happened to them, she'd be devastated. That's just horrific. Now, so that's also, that part for me comes from the Remus quote. He talks about her incredible ability to love, and after all, we all know that Lily's love for Harry is literally what saved him from the killing curse. So if you don't think that Lily is an incredibly loving person, then I don't want to say you're wrong. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're on a scale of 1 to 10, you're like a 9.8. Not right. Sorry, son. Now, the next part of her personality is, like, the word, I think that Slughorn knew, was vivacious. I love that word. She's very lively, and she's a very animated and a very grown-up person. And people, like, I think I've heard before, people tended to picture her as very stuck up, very straightforward, following the rules and stuff, which in general is mostly true, not in like in a stickly, prickly, prude way. That's not Lily. But she does, school to her is very important, because this is something she never really knew about until Severus introduced her to it before, and then she got to Hogwarts, and then she was like, and she went to classes and all that stuff, and Lily was probably along the lines of something like, whoa, I'm good at this. Not like, oh, I'm good at this, but like, I'm good at this. And she knew that she was, and always something that some people, especially Lily, class is just, learning is super important to them, and this is stuff she's never known about before. I mean, Severus introduced her into it a little before, but now she's delving into all this. So I kind of thought, if I was thinking about that, like Hermione, who read Hogwarts a history for light reading, that would probably be something that Lily would do. Not for light reading, but she would dig it, because this is all so different than the Muggle world to her, and she loves it, and it's just so interesting, and I'm rambling about it because Lily just really loves the wizarding world. She finds it fascinating. And then there's the purebloods. And not just any purebloods, not just Slytherin purebloods, the gross, nasty purebloods who think they're better than everyone else. And she, as Lily, she can't stand that. She finds it stupid. Just honestly, probably something along the lines of ridiculously stupid. Because here she is, she never knew about it, and she's introduced to this world. She's like, wow, this is all pretty cool. And then there's you guys, over there, being a bunch of bitches. Because I came from somewhere else. And that's it's a bit of a bitch move. And that's probably something Lily, who is not, well, that's probably something Lily is passionate about. She may not be super outgoing about it, but she's out about it. Like, if someone's like, yeah, Muggle-born suck, she'd be like, bugger off, mate, or something like that. Not exactly, but she wouldn't take that stuff. She wouldn't take it. So like I was saying before, people who are very rule-following, very straightforward, a little prude. I do not see Lily in that light. I don't really, oh gosh, is my roommate home? So, prudish. That is something Lily is not. Lily's not a very prude person. And she, I mean, if you ever kind of read back on James and Lily, they were always bickering. It wasn't a side kind of bicker. Lily threw punches, you know, she went for it. Oh gosh, I sound so lame when I'm talking. Character list for Lily Barnes. She's vivacious, she's lively, she's well liked. That's I think Slughorn said it before. Lily Evans is well liked. That's part of, she's a very naturally outgoing person. She has charisma. It's part, I wouldn't call it exactly a character trait, but it's part of who she is. And then she's also studious. She likes school. She cares for her friends. She's compassionate. She's loving. She is lovely. And that, well, like, what was it? That's like, I think, if I remember correctly, Slughorn also said, another thing Slughorn said was, lovely Lily. That's what he always called Harry's mother, was lovely Lily. It wasn't just, you know, smart, popular Lily Evans, but lovely Lily, because she, as a human, not only on the outside, but on the inside, she was just kind and compassionate, and she wouldn't want to be mean to anyone until they were turning a little bitch. She's like, all right, I'm going to have none of your shit. I'm going to have none of it. Thank you. And unlike Marlene, who gets really uppity and into people's faces about blood purity and Muggleborns versus purebloods, and how Muggleborns are just as good as purebloods, and you shouldn't be a bitch about it. But Lily Evans is kind of, you know, I think I've said this like 70 times now. She says something like, right, yeah, fuck you. So let's go with headcanons, because I forgot everything I was going to say on the face of the earth. Headcanons for Lily. Actually, I do have a headcanon that Lily in her 7th year does get one detention once with James Potter, and it's the last detention she will ever get, but she does get it one time because she was definitely not paying attention to class when she was staring at James Potter, but that is the only thing I'm going to tell you kids. Oh God, this is just a disaster.